So, hello and welcome back yet again to closing in really quick on hopefully solving this mystery before the end of the book because we only have 3 chapters left, which is a little bit insane. I'll get a poll up later on, probably tomorrow ish, for our next book. I haven't gotten anything new, unfortunately. Haven't been to the bookstore to see if there's anything new, so it'll probably be Heidi. I think I had 4 books in the last poll, so we'll just take off the Hound of the Baskervilles and put 3 of the other ones up. But yeah, it's kind of insane that we're getting to the end of yet another book. Trippy. Anyway, in the last chapter, there was a death on the moor, and at first it seemed like it was poor Sir Henry meeting his fate at the hound's teeth. But no, it actually just turned out to be the fugitive who died instead because he had been given Sir Henry's clothes, and I guess the Hound had been given Sir Henry's scent from the boot that was stolen back in London. So there's one of the threads tying together. But Holmes is on the case, and Watson is very relieved about that. So we're going to jump back into chapter 13 of The Hound of the Baskervilles by Sir Arthur Conan Doyle. And chapter 13 is titled Fixing the Nets. "We're at close grips at last," said Holmes, as we walked together across the moor. "What a nerve that fellow has! How he pulled himself together in the face of what must have been a paralyzing shock when he found that the wrong man had fallen victim to his plot. I told you in London, Watson, and I tell you now again, we have never had a foe more worthy of our steel." "I'm sorry that he saw you." "And so was I, at first, but there was no getting out of it." "What effect do you think it'll have on his plans, now that he knows that you're here?" "It may cause him to be more cautious, or it may drive him to desperate measures. Like most clever criminals, he may be too confident in his own cleverness and imagine he's completely deceived us." "Why don't we just arrest him?" "My dear Watson, you were born to be a man of action. Your instinct is always to do something energetic, but supposing, for argument's sake, that we had him arrested tonight, what on earth better off should we be for that? We could prove nothing against him. There's the cunning of it. If he were acting through a human agent, we could get some evidence. But if we're to drag this great dog into the light of day, it would not help us in putting a rope around the neck of its master." "Surely we have a case, though." "Not a shadow. Only surmise and conjecture. We would be laughed out of court if we came with such a story in evidence." "There's the death of Sir Charles." "He was found without a mark upon him. You and I know he died of fright, and we know also what frightened him, but how are we to get 12 solid jurymen to know that? What signs are there of a hound? Where are the marks of its fangs? Of course, we know that a hound does not bite a dead body, and that Sir Charles was dead before the brute overtook him, but we have to prove all of this, and we're not in a position to do so." "Well then, tonight?" "We are not much better off tonight. Again, there was no direct connection between the hound and the man's death. We never saw the hound. We heard it, but we could not prove that it was running upon this man's trail. There's a complete absence of motive. No, my dear fellow, we must reconcile ourselves to the fact that we have no case at present, and it's worth our while to run any risk to make a case." "So, what do you propose that we do?" I have great hopes of what Miss Laura Lyons may do for us when the position of affairs is made clear to her. And I have my own plans as well. Sufficient for tomorrow is the evil thereof, but I hope before this day is past to have the upper hand at last. I could get nothing more from him, and he walked, lost in sight, as far as the Baskerville gate. Are you coming up? Yes. I see no further reason for concealment, but one last word, Watson. Say nothing of the Hound to Sir Henry. Let him think Selden's death was as Stapleton wants us to believe. He will have better nerve for the ordeal he will have to undergo tomorrow. If I remember your report right, he has to go dine with those people? I as well. Then you must excuse yourself, and he must go alone. That's easily enough arranged. And now, if we are too late for dinner, I think we're both ready at least for supper. Sir Henry was more pleased than surprised to see Sherlock Holmes, for he had some days been expecting that recent events would bring him from London. He did raise eyebrows, however, when he found that my friend had neither any luggage or explanation for not having it. Between us we soon supplied his wants, and then over a belated supper we explained to the Baron as much of our experience as seemed desirable that he should know. But first, I had the unpleasant duty of breaking the news to Barrymore and his wife. For Barrymore it might have been unmitigated relief, but the wife wept bitterly into her apron. To all the world, he was a man of violence, half animal, half demon, but to her he always remained the little boy of her girlhood, the child holding her hand. Evil indeed is the man who has no one to mourn him. I've been moping in the house all day since Watson went off in the morning, said Sir Henry. I guess I should have some credit, for I kept my promise. If I hadn't sworn not to go out alone, I might have had a more lively evening. I had a message from Stapleton. He wanted me to come over. I have no doubt you would have had a more lively evening, said Holmes. By the way, I don't suppose you appreciate that we have been mourning over you as having a broken neck. Sir Henry opened his eyes. What was that? The poor wretch, Stapleton, was dressed in your clothes, I fear. Your servant who gave them to him may get into trouble with the police. That's unlikely. There was no markings on any of them as far as I know. Well, that's lucky for him. In fact, it's lucky for all of you, since you are on the wrong side of the law in this matter. I'm not sure that as a conscientious detective, my first duty is not to arrest your whole household. Watson's reports are most incriminating. But what about the actual case? Said Sir Henry. Have you made anything out of the tangle? I don't know that Watson and I are much the wiser since we've gotten here. I think I will be in a position to make the situation rather more clear to you before long. It has been an exceedingly difficult and most complicated business. There are several points upon which we still want some light, but it's coming along all the same. We had one experience. As Watson has no doubt told you, we heard a hound on the moor, so I can swear it's not all superstition. I had something to do with dogs when I was out west, and I know one when I hear one. If you can muzzle that one and put him on a chain, I'll be ready to swear you're the greatest detective of all time. I think I'll be able to muzzle him and chain him up, if you can give me some help. Whatever you tell me, I'll do it. Very good. And I will ask you to do it blindly, without asking a reason. As you like. If you will, I think the chances are our little problem will soon be solved. I have no doubt. He stopped suddenly and stared fixedly over my head into the air. The lamplight beat upon his face, and so intent was it and so still that it might have been that of a clear classical statue, the personification of alertness and expectation. "What is it?" both of us cried. I could see as he looked down that he was repressing some internal emotion. His features were still composed, but his eyes were shining with amused exultation. "Excuse the admiration of a connoisseur," he said, as he waved his hand towards the line of portraits covering the opposite wall. "Watson won't allow that I know anything about art, but that's mere jealousy because our views differ. Now those are a really fine series of portraits." "I'm glad to hear you say that," said Sir Henry, glancing with surprise at my friend. "I don't pretend to know much about these things, and I'd be a better judge of a horse or steer than that of a picture. I didn't know that you found the time to pursue such things." "I know what is good when I see it, and I see it now. That's a kneeler. I'll swear that lady in the blue silk over yonder, and the stout gentleman with the wig, might be a Reynolds. Family portraits, I presume?" "Every one of 'em." "Do you know all the names?" "Barrymore's been coaching me, and I think I can say my lessons." "Who's the gentleman with the telescope?" "That's Rear Admiral Baskerville. He served under Rodney in the West Indies. The man with the blue coat and the roll of paper is Sir William Baskerville, who was chairman of the committees of the House of Commons under Pitt." "And this cavalier opposite to me, the one with black velvet and lace?" "Ah, you've got a right to know about him. That's the cause of all this mischief. The wicked Hugo who started the Hound of Baskervilles. We're not likely to forget him." I looked with interest and a bit of surprise upon the portrait. "Dear me," said Holmes, "he seems a quiet, meek-mannered man, but I dare say there's a lurking devil in his eyes. I pictured him as more a robust and ruffianly person." "There's no doubt about the authenticity. The name and the date, 1647, are on the back of the canvas." Holmes said very little more, but the picture of the old roisterer seemed to fascinate him, and his eyes were continually fixed upon it during supper. It was not until later, when Sir Henry had gone to his room, that I was able to follow his thoughts. He led me back into the banquet hall, his bedroom candle in hand, and held it up against the time-stained portrait. "Do you see anything there?" I looked at the broad-plumed hat, the curling love-locks, the white lace collar, and the straight, severe face framed between them. It was not a brutal countenance, but it was prim, hard, and stern, with a firm-set, thin-lipped mouth and coldly intolerant eyes. "Look like anyone you know?" "I see something of Sir Henry, about the jaw." "A suggestion, perhaps. But wait a moment." He stood up upon a chair, and holding up the light in his left hand, he curved his right arm over the broad hat and around the ringlets. "Good heavens!" The face of Stapleton seemed to spring from the canvas. "Ha! You can see it now. My eyes have been trained to examine faces and not their trimmings. It is the first quality a criminal investigator has, that he should see through any disguise." "But this is marvelous. It almost might be him on the canvas." "Yes, an interesting instance of a throwback, which appears to be both physical and spiritual. A study of family portraits is enough to convert a man to the doctrine of reincarnation. Stapleton is a Baskerville. That much is evident." "And he's got designs on succession." "Exactly. This chance of the picture has supplied us with our most obvious missing link. We've got him, Watson. We've got him. And I dare say that before tomorrow he'll be fluttering in our net as helplessly as one of his own butterflies. a pin, a cork, and a card, and we will add him to the Baker Street collection." He then burst into one of his rare fits of laughter as he turned away from the picture. I haven't heard him laugh often, and it's always been bad news for somebody when he does. I was up betimes in the morning, but Holmes was afoot even earlier, for I saw him as I got dressed coming up the driveway. "We'll have a full day today," he remarked as he rubbed his hands with the joy of action. "The nets are all in place, and the drag is about to begin. We'll know before the day is out whether we have caught our big, lean-jawed pike or whether he's gotten through the mesh." "Have you been on the moor already?" "I sent a report from Grimpen to Princeton as to the death of Selden. I think I can promise that none of you will be troubled in the matter. And I've also communicated with my faithful Cartwright, who would certainly have pined away at the door of my hut as a dog at its master's grave if I had not set his mind at rest as to my safety." "What's our next move?" "We need to see Sir Henry. Ah, here he is." "Good morning, Holmes," said the baronet. "You look like a general who's planning a battle with his chief of staff." "That is the exactness of the situation. Watson was asking me for orders." "As am I." "Very good. You are engaged, as I understand it, to dine with our friends the Stapletons tonight." "I hope that you'll come with me. They're very hospitable people, and I'm sure they'd be very glad to see you." "I fear that Watson and I must go to London." "London?" "Yes, I think we would be more useful there right now." The baronet's face fell. "I'd hoped that you were going to see me through this business. The hall and the moor are not very pleasant places when you're alone." "My dear fellow, you must trust me implicitly and do exactly what I tell you. You can tell your friends that we would have been very happy to come with you, but that urgent business required us to head to town. We hope to very soon be back in Devonshire. Can you give them that message?" "If you insist." "There's nothing else for it, I assure you." I saw by Sir Henry's clouded brow that he was deeply hurt by what he regarded as our deserting him. "When are you leaving?" he said coldly. "Right after breakfast. We will drive into Coombe Tracy, but Watson will leave his things as a pledge that he will come back to you. Watson, send a note to Stapleton and tell him that you regret that you are unable to come." "I've got a good mind to go to London with you," said Sir Henry. "Why should I stay here alone?" "Because it is your post of duty. Because you gave me your word you would do as you were told, and I tell you to stay." "Fine, I'll stay." "One more direction. I wish you to drive to Merripit House. Send back your trap, however, and let them know that you intend to walk home." "Across the moor?" "Yes." "But that's the exact thing you've so often said I should not do." "This time you may do it with safety. If I had not every confidence in your nerve and courage, I would not suggest it, but this is essential." "Then I will." "And as you value your life, do not go across the moor in any direction save along the straight path that leads from Merripit House to Grimpen Road. Your natural way home, I assume." "I'll do what you say." "Very good. I should be glad to get away as soon after breakfast as possible, so I can reach London this afternoon." I was very much astounded by this program, though I remember that Holmes had said to Stapleton the night before that his visit would terminate the next day. It had not crossed my mind, however, that he would wish me to go with him, nor could I understand how we could both be absent at a moment which he himself declared critical. There was nothing to do, however, but obedience, And so we bade goodbye to our rueful friend, and a couple of hours later we were at the station of the Coombe Tracy and had dispatched the trap back to the hall. There was a small boy waiting on the platform. "Any orders, sir?" "Yes. You will take this train to town, Cartwright. The moment you arrive, you will send a wire to Sir Henry Baskerville in my name to say that if he finds the pocketbook which I have dropped, he is to send it by registered post to Baker Street." "Yes, sir." "And ask at the station office if there is any messages for me." The boy returned with a telegram, which Holmes handed to me, that said, "Wire received. Coming down with unsigned warrant. Arrive at 5:40. Lestrade." Ah, this is an answer to my telegram this morning. He's the best of professionals, I think, and we may need his assistance. Now, Watson, I think that we cannot employ our time better than by calling upon Miss Laura Lyons. His plan was beginning to become evident. He would use the baronet in order to convince the Stapletons that we were truly gone, while we would actually return at the instant when we were most likely to be needed. The telegram from London, if mentioned by Sir Henry to the Stapletons, would remove the last of suspicions from their mind. Already, I seem to see our nets drawing closer around that lean-jawed pike of a man. Mrs. Laura Lyons was in her office, and Sherlock Holmes opened his interview with a frankness and directness which amazed both me and her. "I am investigating the circumstances which attended the death of the late Sir Charles Baskerville," he said. "My friend here, Dr. Watson, has informed me of what you have said, and also of what you have withheld in the matter." "What have I withheld?" she said defiantly. "You have confessed that you asked Sir Charles to be at the gate at 10 o'clock. We know that was the place and hour of his death. You have withheld what the connection was between these events." "There's no connection." "In that case, the coincidence must indeed be an extraordinary one, but I think that we shall succeed in establishing a connection after all. I wish to be perfectly frank with you, Mrs. Lyons. We regard this case as one of murder, and the evidence may implicate not only your friend Mr. Stapleton, but his wife as well." Mrs. Lyons jumped from her chair. "His wife?" she said. "The fact is no longer a secret. The person who has passed for his sister is in reality his wife." Mrs. Lyons sat back down. Her hands were gripping the arms of her chair, and I saw that the pink nails had turned white with the pressure. "His wife?" she said again. "His wife? He is not a married man." Sherlock merely shrugged. "Prove it to me! Prove it to me! And if you can do so—" The flash of her eyes said more than words. "I've come prepared," said Holmes, pulling several papers from his pocket. "Here's a photograph of the couple, taken in York 4 years ago. It is inscripted Mr. and Mrs. Vandeleur, but you will have no difficulty in recognizing him and her if you know her at sight. Here are 3 written descriptions by trustworthy witnesses of Mr. and Mrs. Vandeleur, who at that time kept St. Oliver's private school. Read them. See if you can doubt the identity." She looked at them, and then looked up at us with the set, rigid face of a desperate woman. "Mr. Holmes," she said, "this man had offered me marriage on the condition that I could get a divorce from my husband. He's lied to me, the villain, in every conceivable way. Not one word of truth has he ever told me. And why? Why? I imagined that it was all for my own sake, but now I see I was never anything but a tool for him. Why should I preserve the faith with him who never kept any with me? Why should I try to shield him from the consequences of his own wickedness? Ask me whatever you like, and there is nothing which I shall hold back. One thing I swear to you, and that is when I wrote the letter, I never dreamed of any harm to the old man who had been such a kind friend." "I believe you, madam," said Sherlock Holmes. "The recital of these events must be very painful to you, and perhaps it will make it easier if I tell you what occurred, and you can check me if I make any mistakes. You sending this letter was suggested by Stapleton." "He dictated it." "I presume that the reason he gave you was that you would receive help from Sir Charles for the legal expenses connected with your divorce." "Exactly." "And then, after you had sent the letter, he dissuaded you from keeping your appointment?" "He told me that it would hurt his self-respect that any other man should find the money for such an object, and that even though he was a poor man, he would devote his last penny to removing any obstacles that divided us." "He appears to be a very constant character. And then you heard nothing until you read the reports of the death?" "No." "And he made you swear to say nothing about your appointment?" "He did. He said that the death was a very mysterious one, and that I should certainly be suspected if the facts came out. He frightened me into staying silent." "Quite so. But you had your suspicions." She hesitated and looked down for a moment. "I knew him," she said. "But if he had kept faith with me, I would have always done so with him." "I think that on the whole you've had a fortunate escape," said Sherlock. "You have had him in your power, and he knew it, and yet you are still alive. You've been walking for months very near to the edge of a cliff. We must tell you good morning now, Mrs. Lyons, and it is very probable that you will hear from us again soon. Our case becomes rounded off, and difficulty after difficulty is thinning away," said Holmes, as we stood waiting for the arrival of the express from town. "I will soon be in the position of being able to put into a single connected narrative one of the most singular and sensational crimes of modern times. Students of criminology will remember the analogous incidents in Godno, in Little Russia in the year 66, and of course there are the Anderson murders in North Carolina, but this case possesses some features which are entirely its own. Even now we have no clear case against this very wily man, but I will be very much surprised if it's not clear enough before we go to bed tonight." The London express came roaring into the station, and a small, wiry bulldog of a man sprang from the first-class carriage. We all shook hands, and I saw at once from the reverential way in which Lestrade gazed at Sherlock that he had learned a good deal since the days they had first worked together. I well remember the scorn which the theories of Sherlock used to excite from this practical man. "Anything good?" he asked. "The biggest thing for years," said Holmes. "We have 2 hours before we need to think of starting. I think we should employ it in getting some dinner, and then, Lestrade, we will take the London fog out of your throat by giving you a breath of the pure night air of Dartmoor. You've never been there? Ah, well, I don't suppose you'll forget this first visit." Oh, and that was the end of the chapter. I feel like I should know Lestrade, but I'm going to be honest with you. I don't, except for the name. I feel like he probably has a lot to do with the Sherlock Holmes, like, legend and mystery, kind of like Moriarty. But I don't know who it is, so I guess we'll find out in the next chapter. That was exciting, wasn't it? It was kind of exciting. I answer my own question for myself. Anyway, I hope that you enjoyed this chapter as much as I enjoyed reading it. All of the threads are coming together. I do like the fact that Stapleton actually turns out to be a secret Baskerville, as found out by looking like the old one. Very cool. Anyway, thank you so much. Please do hit the thumbs up on your way out. It does always make me smile, and I will see you next time.